the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project originally launched in April 2007. At the time, the archivist for the Rao Jewish Archives was Susan Melnick. The chair of our advisory committee was Bernie Newman. Both of them were very involved in getting this project started. They were working with Carnegie Mellon University libraries. The materials on the website, the actual paper newspapers, were held at the Rao Jewish Archives and the Road of Sholem Archives. And I believe there were some other repositories, perhaps even the New York Public Library. If you've ever used the site, you know there's a run of years that appear to be microfilm. So those were some that did not, those copies were not in Pittsburgh, and we had to go outside the city to find them. There was also assistance from the beginning from what's now called the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle and from the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh. I was thinking about 2007 and how it does not really feel all that long ago. It's only 14 years ago. But in internet time, 14 years is the equivalent of 135 human years. And so this is actually a very long time ago in internet years. If you remember in 2007, the smartphone had just been invented. That's kind of how long ago we're talking about. So this website has been around in internet time for a very long time. I believe it was one of the first online Jewish newspaper projects. I could be wrong about that. If it was not the first, it was certainly one of the first. And over time, it has moved to new platforms. So there was one move in 2012, and there was another move again in 2021, which is the one that we're going to be talking about today. These changes can often be very frustrating for researchers. If you do a lot of research using a particular website, you get into a groove with that website, you learn how to use it, you finally get comfortable with it, and then it changes, and you think, why does everything have to change all the time? And some of this comes down to the nature of the internet. If there's a reference book that you really love, if you love a certain edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, you get that edition, you put it on your shelf, and you never have to buy another one for the rest of your life, as long as that book doesn't burn up or get drowned or get stolen or get shredded to pieces. It's going to be there for you the rest of your life. But the internet is a system. And as the system as a whole improves, it often makes individual segments within that system obsolete. And so it's important when organizations like libraries and archives that are curating access to information, when it's important for us to constantly be updating these sites so that they don't become technically obsolete. And so that's part of what motivates these moves to new platforms. The current platform is something called Islandora. It's a very common system throughout the world of libraries and archives online. If any of you are familiar with the website Historic Pittsburgh, that website is also based on Islandora. It's very good at managing large amounts of data, large amounts of what we would call assets. So for the case of the newspaper project, those assets are individual pages that are turned into digital files. And there are tens of thousands of them on the website. And so a platform like Islandora is good for managing a large asset sets like this one. The other benefit to Islandora is that it's a free open source tool. And therefore, there are a lot of people all over the world who are constantly creating third-party software patches and additions and tools for this system. And so the more people that are on a system, the more input you're getting from the margins. And so that's one of the reasons why this is seen as being a superior system, is that over time it allows for more and better changes than some of the previous systems. So that's my understanding behind why this would change. That doesn't change the fact that it still requires you to learn a new system. And so what I'm going to do today is take you through the website, show you some sample searches to give a sense of how you can navigate through the site. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project. All right, if somebody could just nod if you can see the website. Okay, good. So this is the link that I shared with you. This is the homepage to the website. And as you'll see, it does not say Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project anywhere on here. And that's one of the big differences between this new platform and the previous one. The way that the website worked previously is that imagine like a motel that is all one building, but has a lot of different doors into different rooms. That's how the CMU websites used to be. You would walk in to the room that you were interested in. So in our case, it's the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project. But for some other researcher, it might be a different collection held at CMU. And you would do all the research you wanted to do there. but you were really actually part of a much bigger building. Now, what happens is you walk in the front door of a building and you have to find which room you need once you're in the building. And so if you look at this search bar here, this is sort of your main entryway into that website. So first I want to show you how to search on this website, but I want to tell you up front that searching is actually not the most effective way to find what you're looking for. I think a lot of us have become accustomed to using Google and the way that Google allows us to search. And that is built off of a lot of sophistication that's in the Google search engine. And it encourages us to put a lot of words into a search bar because it's going to hit more parts of a page and it's actually going to find a smaller selection, which is what we want, a small, meaningful selection of search results. But on this website, what I've found is that the more words you put in, the more results you get back, to the point where there's so much noise that you can't hear the signal anymore. It appears that the search bar will do what you could think of as like an and or search, which means that every additional word you put in there, it's searching all the pages for that as well. So if you were to put in a 2-word search term, it would give you all the pages that have the first word and all the pages that have the second word, and not necessarily all the pages that have both. So the best way to think about searching on this website is to find the shortest unique terminology that you can think of. The more words that you have, the more problems you will have. So I want to show you what I mean. There's a school in Pittsburgh called a Jewish day school called Hillel Academy of Pittsburgh. And maybe you're researching an ancestor who happened to go to this school. So that's the name of the school. So let's search that. We put it in, and you can see that we get 411 search results back. Now, if we look at this, we know that everything that lists Hillel Academy of Pittsburgh is probably also going to have just the phrase Hillel Academy. Of Pittsburgh are additional words that will be there sometimes and will not be there other times. So if we go to the shortest unique terminology, Hillel Academy, and we search that, we find there's 3,016 results. So if you searched Hillel Academy of Pittsburgh, you're going to miss out on about 2,600 search results. And those are probably going to be useful to you. If you were to just search Hillel, that's too small. You would get articles about the Rabbi Hillel. You would get articles about the B'nai B'rith Hillel. You would get all sorts of Hillels that you didn't want. So when you're searching, think about the shortest unique search terminology. And when you're thinking about a person, that means that if somebody has like a very common first name and middle name, or a very unique first name and middle name, you can sometimes just think about searching just the first and middle name and not the last name, or just the middle and last name, but not the first name. Think about these strategic ways of how you can minimize the length of your search terms so that it's a small, unique phrase. The other thing to keep in mind, I'm going to go back to the main page for this. The other thing to keep in mind is the importance of quotation marks. So I'm sure a lot of you know that quotation marks in the world of searching gives you an exact search. When you're on Google, sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it doesn't really matter. You can type in a string of words and the Google algorithm is sophisticated enough that it can rank your results and it can give you a result that's actually somewhat meaningful. On this website, if you try to search without quotation marks, you're going to get that and or function I was telling you about earlier. So just as an example, if we put in Hillel Academy of Pittsburgh without quotes, you can see that we get 80,000 search results. That's way more than the 3,000 that we were getting when we put it in the 400, I'm sorry, search results that we got when we put it in just by itself. Okay, so then the next thing I want to show you is something that I've noticed from a lot of people who have been using the site. People who have written me about this and said that this is a problem they're encountering. So first, we're going to put in this term Hazelwood. And something that a lot of people have done is they've been paying a lot of attention to this preview text here. So when you search a term, you'll see that you're getting all of these results, and each one has this preview text, and the text will highlight your word. Now let's put in a multi-phrase word like Hillel Academy like we had before. And one of the things you'll notice is that sometimes it's bringing up Hillel Academy, and sometimes it's bringing up just the word Hillel and just the word Academy. And a lot of users have told me that they are frustrated with this because they assume that this means that this page does not actually have what they're looking for. So what I want to tell you is ignore the preview text. In the previous iteration of the website, it seemed to be pretty helpful. It gave you a little snippet of where your search result was appearing, so you could get a sense of if it was useful to you or not. If you've ever searched for names on the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project, you know that occasionally you will hit things like the Jewish Home for the Aged yard site listings, and they will be an issue after issue after issue, and it can really gum up your search results. And so it was helpful to have this preview text. What we found with this current version is that the preview text at the moment is not necessarily helpful. And just to give you a sense of what I mean, we will pull up that page and you can see that it actually is pulling up Hillel Academy. It just, in the preview text, it was not. Okay. Hold on, I lost the screen there. Hold on. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to talk about filtering, because filtering is actually a more useful tool than searching alone. The way to think about filtering is, have you ever been to a big event and there's a lot of people attending and a speaker will say, I want everybody to stand up. Now sit down if this is your if you've been at this school for 5 years, 10 years, and kind of people sit down, more and more people sit down until there's 1 or 2 people left. Another example, I don't know if this reference means anything. When I was little, there was a game that I liked a lot called Guess Who. It was a little game where you would have all these faces and you would say, does your person have glasses? Does your person have brown hair? And you'd be knocking down the people until you got to the final person. That's a way to think about filtering. What you're doing is you're searching broadly, and then you're using filtering terms to narrow down the search results. So an example of what I mean is I'm going to search for Hazelwood. Hazelwood is a neighborhood in Pittsburgh, and it's a term that has some search results that are Jewish and are going to be useful for somebody who's doing Jewish research, and it's going to have some that are not. And so this gets to one of the kind of unexpected features of this website. When you search from that main page, you are searching every single collection that CMU holds, and they hold dozens of collections. And when you look on the side here, it says limit your search. This is where you start to filter. So if you look here, the word Hazelwood, which is a broad search term, has brought up 1,765 search results, and it's brought them up from 12 collections here. And for each collection, it tells you how many search results have come up for that collection. So the charrette, for example, the charrette was a journal published by the Pittsburgh Architectural Society. There are 12 mentions of the word Hazelwood in the charrette. In ours, the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project, we see there are 1,589. So we'll click on that. And now we are only looking at the Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project listings. Now, if you want, you can further reduce this by the paper. So you could look just in the criterion, which, as you remember, is from 1895 to 1962. You could look just in the American Jewish Outlook, which is from 34 to 62. You could look in the Chronicle, which is from 62 until 2010. That's where it ends on this website. Or you could look at the Y Weekly, which I don't know the dates off the top of my head. It's like the 20s into the 70s. So that's one way that you could filter. But another, and this is the more useful one, is by date. So say the person you're looking for in Hazelwood, you know that they lived there sometime within 5 years of the end of World War II. So what you do is you use this date function here to limit the date range of the articles you're looking at. I recommend starting with the end date first. So we move that, it starts at 2010. We're going to move that to 1950 and let this page reload. So you can see we've gone from 1,500 research results to 800. Now we're going to take the start date and we're going to move that to 1940. And you can see now we have 216 search results, which is a pretty manageable number to work your way through. Now, once you've done that, you want to arrange these results in a way that is useful to you. So you can sort in 3 different ways. You can sort by relevance, date, or title. Relevance is an odd little thing that a lot of websites have. It's based off of an algorithm. I couldn't tell you exactly how the algorithm works, but the idea is that it is theoretically looking at the page and trying to get a sense of how prominent this result is and whether it's the one that you're going to be most interested in. I generally have not found that to be useful, except in a case where I'm doing a very preliminary search on a subject that I know very little about. Sometimes that will bring up the type of result I'm looking for. So for example, if there was a particular congregation and I wanted to know when they dedicated a building, and I have no idea when that was, sometimes relevance is helpful because the algorithm will occasionally hit that and give you that at a high level, but often it's not. Another one, title, for our purposes is not particularly useful at the moment. It's pulling the title, this title right here, the one that says the name of the paper, the volume, and the issue number. So if you think about alphabetizing those, that means you're going to get all of the American Jewish Outlooks, then all of the Jewish Chronicles, then all of the Jewish Criterions, then all of the Y Weeklies, and then it's going to be arrange them by volume and by number. And I believe that the volume in most of these turned over at the high holidays. So it's not even going to tell you a January to December. It's going to tell you whatever Tishrei happened to be in any given year, a September, October to September, October. So I have not found title to be particularly useful, but date is useful. So we'll sort these by date and let it reload. And now you can decide the order that you want the dates. So you can have it ascending, which means it's going to go from the top of the calendar to the bottom, or you can do descending, which is the bottom of the calendar to the top. A lot of that is just preference. If you happen to be looking for something in December, it's easier to have it go from bottom to top. If you're otherwise, I find it easier to go in chronological order. So we'll put this ascending. And then the third option it gives you is how many results you want per page. So you can have 10, 25, or 100. A lot of this is your particular preferences. The more results you have per page, the fewer times you're going to have to click next. It will make the page load a little slower. And sometimes it can be a little confusing to kind of scroll through a long list of pages, especially if you're going back and forth and back and forth. However, if you are looking for 1 year in particular, it sometimes helps to do it at 100 so that you get all the issues on one page and you don't have to be jumping around. So that's the basic principle of searching, filtering, and sorting. The idea is that you want to come up with something, the shortest unique terminology you can come up with, allow yourself to get a lot of search results, and then gradually filter those down to a manageable number, and then start to go in issue by issue. And so that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to show you how to go in issue by issue. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you one other thing. So if you remember from the old website, for those of you who used it, you could go to the materials in 2 ways. One was a search bar that was pretty much like this. And then another was a browsing page. And the browsing page listed all of the issues by year. And then you could go and click on that year and it would give you all 52 issues of that newspaper that year. There is no browsing page on this website, but there is a hack that you can use to effectively browse. And so the way you want to do that is when you are on this main page, instead of using the search bar, go to this, click search up at the top here. So you see it says about, collections, and search. So if you want to browse, click search. And now it brings you up to a different internal search page. And this is giving you every single thing that's on the CMU's website. So there's more than 100,000 individual documents that are on the website that come from all the collections that they have. Then what you want to do is you want to click Pittsburgh Jewish Newspapers. So now you've got the entire Pittsburgh Jewish Newspaper Project. So for our purposes, I'm going to look up a woman named Dora Alpern, who I know died on December 11th, 1955. So the way that we do this is we've now narrowed it down to just the Jewish newspapers. We're going to take the end date and put it to 1955. Then we're going to take the start date and overlay it. It sort of hides behind it. That's why I like to start with the end date. And now we've got 142 issues. So this is every issue of all 3 newspapers that were published in 1955. Let's sort by date. And because we're looking in December, I'm going to keep it at descending order. So that's bottom to top. And I don't think I'll need more than 10 results. And then we just scroll down the page until we get to the issue after December 11th, which is the 16th. So we'll open up this issue. And now we can get a sense of how to navigate a particular issue of this paper. So what you're looking at here is the whole issue. This is a little different than the old website. With the old website, you would kind of get locked onto the page of the search result, or you could browse and you could go to the whole issue. This gives you the entire issue every time. It's actually one of the things I really like about the new platform. So say you're trying to find Dora Alpern. You can go about it one of 2 ways. One is you can just kind of scroll through the issue. You know that at some point there's an obituary page. And so let's guess that it's here. I guessed right. It was on page 22. And we can see that the first obituary is Dora Alpern. Now, say it was a big issue. Sometimes you hit those high holiday issues that are 150 pages. If you click on these 3 lines here on the left side of the page, it'll open up a sidebar. And then if you click the magnifying glass, it'll give you a second search window. And you can type in Alpern, and it'll give you the search result, and it'll take you right to that page. And if there's more than one search result, it'll give you a list of them. So here, it happens to say Alpern 3 times. It's all in the same listing, but when you click on each one, the yellow is the highlight that you're on. The blue is a highlight that you are not on at the moment. Okay, so now I want to show you, say you really want to download this, it's useful, you want to be able to send it to people. There's a couple ways that you can download things. So the first is on the right hand side of the page at the top here, there's these 3 dots. And if you click that, it gives you a little download option. Click download, and it brings up this window. And this window is not as complicated as it looks. Essentially, it's giving you options to download either of the open pages on the spread. So you can either download page 22 or page 23. And all of these are just different sizes. So for my purposes, I always download the largest because it's going to be the file that is the crispest, clearest file. It's not going to be pixelated. But if you're worried about storage space on your computer, you can always download the smaller one, this one that's 87 by 120 pixels. So you can download either of those 2 pages. And then at the bottom, it also gives you an option to download the entire issue as a PDF. And it'll tell you what the size is, so you can decide in advance if it's something you want to go to. So let's say we want to download this page 22, and we want the highest resolution. So we click on that, and it's going to open it up in another page. And then you can right click and save it on your computer, and then it'll just save it however you want. If you look in the long name here, it's saving it as a JPEG. There's actually a lot of information embedded in here that can be useful to you later. So this first part of the file name is just the website. But then there's a little 3-letter code here that tells you the name of the newspaper. So it'll either be Criterion, Chronicle, Outlook, or Y Weekly, depending on the issue. Then this here is the date. So it's 12/16/1955. So it's the December 16th, 1955 issue. And this is the page number, page 22. So I like to change these because I have a format that I've been using for years for how I like to save files. But if you never change this file type and you just kept the name of this like it is, and then years later you wanted to go back and find the issue that it came from, all that information is embedded in the name of that file. Okay. So that's one way that you can download. You can actually have a download that's on your computer. It'll be a JPEG file that you can email or you can put on social media or do whatever you want with. There's another way if you want to send a link, and there's two ways to do that. So the first is if you want to link to the whole issue, scroll down. So here's the window, then scroll down to more details. And there's this thing called persistent link. And if you copy that and you put that in into your browser window, it'll bring up the original search page, but the only listing will be your website. So if there's a particular issue that you want to look at later, or you want to send an email to somebody saying, you should really look at this issue, you can send them the whole issue through that link. Now, what if you want to send them just one page? So say you're looking at this issue and you're like, wow, that's a great illustration of gold in my ear there. I really want to send someone a link to that. I don't really want to download it and clutter up my computer, but I want to show just this page to somebody. So go to download, click on the whole image link, and this image that pops up in a new page on your browser is a URL. So you could just copy this whole thing and throw it in the browser window, and it'll bring up that page. So you can actually just email a specific page to somebody, or you can save that link for later. Okay, so now I want to address some of the problems that I've encountered with this website. So the first is, to the best of my knowledge, I have not found a way to use Boolean searches. So Boolean searches are when you use terms like and, or, not, certain proximity things that allow you to create complex searches. So it used to be really helpful, and this is still something you can use on a lot of other websites. Say you were looking for a subject that often had a lot of false positives attached to it. So just say that you happen to have family member that lived on a street called Pennsylvania Avenue, and you were getting all these things about the White House. So you could, through a Boolean search, you could search in quotation marks, Pennsylvania Avenue, not White House, and it would search for everything that had Pennsylvania Avenue, but did not have White House listed in it. You could also do things where you could say, I want it to search this and this. So you could say, I want it to search Saul Rubenstein and wedding, and see if you could find something like that. At the moment, the site does not have that functionality, and it's something that I'm hoping they'll introduce soon because it makes it much easier to do complex searches. So at the moment, if you were to type in two different search terms, so let's say we were going to type in Hillel Academy and graduation, instead of searching for all the pages that have both Hillel Academy and graduation, it ends up giving you 22,000 search results because it's looking for everything that has Hillel Academy, and then it's looking for everything that has graduation, and it's giving you all of both of those. So that's one problem that I found. Another problem that I've encountered on the website is that there appear to be some missing pages from some of the issues, but the OCR, which is the hidden field that transcribes all of the text from the pages, that is intact. And so occasionally what will happen, and it's hard to find examples of these because it's kind of a moving target, but sometimes you'll search for something, and then a search result a page will come up, one of these, and you'll click on it, and then it'll say no search terms on this page. And you'll think, well, why did it pull it up? Well, it pulled it up because it's reading, the website is reading a hidden OCR text, which is just a text of all the words in the issue, but it is showing you JPEGs. It's showing you images of newspaper pages. And if that page isn't up, it knows that that word is in there, but it doesn't have something to match it to. So if you find those, save the issue that is missing pages and send it to CMU. And the way you do that is up at the top of the page here on this yellow bar. It says, if you have suggestions or want to report an issue or provide general feedback, please complete this form. Click on the form, and it brings up this little submission form where you can you can tell them that an issue is missing pages, and it's good for them to know because otherwise it's very hard for them to find those things. Another problem I've noticed, and I've noticed this on other Islandora websites as well, is that sometimes the highlighted text is misplaced. So that means that at some point, the OCR, which is the text of the website, and the page, which is an image, ideally should be perfectly aligned over each other so that each word is on top of its image of that same word. Sometimes the highlight is in the wrong place. And when that's the case, it can be very frustrating because you know that your search result is in there somewhere. It's just not where the highlight is. So what I found is the first thing to do is kind of look in all the cardinal directions. So sometimes it's a couple inches above or below or to the side. If that doesn't work, check the preceding or the subsequent page at the same spot where the highlight is. Sometimes it just gets kind of thrown off by a page. And if you kind of map out the page and say, well, it looks like this highlight is on the lower third to the left, and then go to the previous page, sometimes you'll find your search result on the lower third to the left.